Good morning. As let me introduce, my name is Anggi Nirvana, and currently my job is a wastewater engineer principal for VTC Minusa. Today I will discuss about determining water quality, which comes from chapter 14 of the book Environmental Economics and Management, Theoretical Policy and Application, written by Scott G. Callan and Janet M. Thomas. In this regard, Chapter 14 will place more emphasis on the basis of lawmaking and standards for waters in the United States. Okay, let me start it off. Water is one of the most valuable resources for all life on this earth. Both humans, animals, and plants will always need the presence of water in every activity of their life. Water, especially clean water, must always be maintained in various ways because we know that once clean water sources are polluted, it will take a lot of effort to fix them. Because water ecology is interconnected with one another. We know the water cycle where water is always changing from one place to another, from rivers to ocean, then evaporate into clouds and fall as rain to give life on earth. Next, types of water source and their cycle. Water is based on where it lives is naturally divided into two ways by this chapter name. The first is surface water and the second is groundwater. Surface water is water that is above the ground surface and is exposed to the free atmosphere, while the water is in the ground means that the water is on the ground surface. Because the water rotates following a natural cycle, the one source will damage the other source. For example, if the river water is damaged, then of course the rainwater will also be damaged. Because in this cycle, the river water will eventually turn into rainwater as well. And then we have two types of water sampling point. To be able to measure the cause of damage, the identification process of water damage is divided into two. The first one is point resource. Point source, which means it is easy to identify because the output of sampling comes from a clear point. And the second is a non-point source, which means it is quite difficult to identify because the sample comes from a mixture of several points scattered randomly. For example, the point source is the pipe output of wastewater from factories, restaurants, or even our homes. And the example of non-point sources are like river, lakes, ocean, and rain. Currently, the law system enforced in America can only control pollution from a clear source, and that is a point source. And then we have three categories of wastewater. The first one is the integrated domestic wastewater treatment system, and the second is industrial wastewater treatment system, and the third is combined wastewater treatment system, and that is derived from domestic wastewater mixed with rainwater runoff. Now, the history of water laws in the United States. For the United States itself, it is stated that the law regarding the control of water pollution was introduced in 1972, followed by the Clean Water Act in 1977. This also could only be implemented because of the pressure from the wider community in America about the importance of maintaining clean and safe water with controlling the water pollution. From these two regulations emerged a series of other regulations to regulate the procedure for wastewater disposal and the treatment for both industrial and domestic purpose. Until it speaks of Obama era, there were quite a lot of executive orders, especially in efforts to control seawater pollution from oil spills. For in Indonesia itself, we know quite a lot of regulation regarding water. What I'm most familiar with is as a wastewater engineer is a standard for wastewater quality, domestic wastewater, and clean water quality standard. Each of which is mentioned in different regulation, all of which just started to focus on the era of the 1990s. And then now the policy target in America. It states that there are 4 policy targets for water regulation in the United States. The first one is zero discharge goal. That is targeting to remove all impurities present in the water, or don't even make wastewater at all. And the second one is feasible swimmable goals. And the main is the policy target is to all surface water can be used for recreation such as fishing and swimming. And the third one is no toxic and toxic amount goal, targeting to limit the amount of contamination in water so as not reach toxic value, and that is like LD50, and that is toxic to rat. Identifying water pollutants, that is a way to be able to identify source of pollution water. Next one, for setting standard to define the water quality, in the United States there are 2 things that become the main standards to determining water quality. The first one is the target usage. At a minimum must be able to follow the feasible swimmable target, and the second one is environmental carrying capacity target. In Indonesia we call it daya dukung and daya tampung, where the discharged water must be treated under the existing environmental carrying capacity. And there are 3 kind of carrying capacity. The first one is good, and the second one is straight, and the last one is poor. And then analysis on technique for determining water quality regulation. The first one, as this chapter tells us, there is an absence of benefit cost analysis, because the main target that are required from only swimmable and feasible water. Many industries and cities have gaps to run away from their responsibilities. As long as the water that is the recipient of the waste is still strong enough to accept pollution and is said to be suitable for fishing, the pollution will continue to exist. The laws should also take into account what benefit and currently own and the cost need to fix them later. For example, clean and unpolluted seawater will have abundant fish resources that can be calculated in a certain currency value. This resource will be reduced or even completely lost when there is massive seawater pollution, for example by oil spills from ships. Number 2. Lack of basic consistency making regulation for pollution quality standard. So far, the determination of regulation is only based on the target of using water output and also the available technology. This makes it unclear between one boundary and another, so that many industries are producing imperfectly based on the reason they have the lack of processing technology. It is more appropriate to the establishment of regulation with are clear quality standards that must be met by industry, society, and other agency or institution that which are state as the total maximum daily loads. Then I will tell you the benefit of cost analysis on water policy that this book written. The first one is the benefit analysis. It is based on the community willingness to pay for certain activities to relate to water. For example, in the table provided, the survey results show that on average people are willing to pay $89 for swimming activities in open water such as river, lakes, and seas. And the second cost estimate based on the cost of water treatment and drinking water for each person needs per year on average. And number 3, comparison of benefits and costs. Here it's calculate compared between the two. Then the result can be informed to the state that managing and making the right laws. On the other hand, state will benefit because the community is willing to pay more for activities related to water recreation compared to letting the water pollute. Conclusion: all that is done by researcher either a direct or indirect impact analysis. It will only be able to be given a decision by Congress when it is made into a projection in currency, and the most precise calculation and analysis to calculate it always be required.